The morning sun glinted off the turquoise waters of Marina as I pulled into my parking spot at Seaside Community. I'd been up since 500 hours for Coast Guard drills, and all I wanted was to check on my boat before heading home for a well-deserved shower. My 28-foot cabin cruiser, the Guardian, was my pride and joy, purchased with years of careful saving and maintained with meticulous care. But as I walked down the dock toward my slip, my stomach dropped. The slip was empty. What the hell? I muttered, breaking into a jog. The lines were untied and coiled neatly on the dock, as if someone had taken their sweet time preparing for departure. My mind raced through possibilities. Had it broken loose? Been stolen? Then I heard it, the unmistakable rumble of my boat's engine echoing from somewhere out in the bay. I spun around and spotted the Guardian about 200 yards offshore, and standing at the helm, champagne glass raised high like she was christening the damn thing, was Brenda Carmichael, president of our HOA. My blood pressure spiked instantly. Brenda had been a thorn in my side since I'd moved into Seaside Community 8 months ago. She'd cited me for parking my truck 3 inches over property line. She complained that my boat was an eyesore, despite being in pristine condition. She'd even tried to pass an HOA rule banning active military from docking personal vessels at the community marina, claiming it was inappropriate use of residential facilities. But this was theft. Grand theft. Actually, I pulled out my phone and called my commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander Harris. Sir, I need to report a situation. My personal vessel has been stolen from the marina, and I have visual confirmation of the perpetrator currently operating it without authorization. Are you serious right now, Petty Officer Klein? Harris sounded incredulous. Completely serious, sir. It's my HOA president. She's out there with what looks like 4 or 5 of her friends, drinking champagne on my boat. There was a pause, then a low chuckle. You've got to be kidding me. All right, where are you? Seaside Community Marina, sir. Stay put. I'm calling this into Station Key West. They'll have a response boat there in 15 minutes. I stood on the dock, watching through binoculars as Brenda and her friends lounged on my boat like they owned it. I could see them laughing, taking selfies, completely oblivious of the world of trouble they were about to encounter. One of them was even sitting in my captain's chair with her feet up on the console, my hands clenched into fists. I'd spent 3 years saving for that boat. I'd worked overtime, taken extra shifts, sacrificed vacations. And this entitled woman thought she could just help herself to it? 13 minutes later, I heard the distinct sound of a Coast Guard response boat's engine. The orange and white RBS rounded the point, blue lights flashing. I couldn't help the grim smile that spread across my face. Through my binoculars, I watched the scene unfold. The Coast Guard boat pulled alongside the Guardian, and I could see Brenda's posture change from relaxed confidence to confused irritation. She was gesturing wildly, probably giving them the same condescending lecture she'd given me a dozen times about knowing her rights and being a respected member of the community. My phone rang. It was Petty Officer Jackson from the response boat. Klein, this your boat? Yes, sir. That woman at the helm is Brenda Carmichael. She took it without permission, no authorization whatsoever. Oh, she's making that very clear. She's currently informing us that as HOA president, she has implied authority over all community assets. Jackson couldn't keep the amusement out of his voice. I don't think she understands that your personal property isn't an HOA asset. Can you bring them in? Already on it. She's refusing to return to dock voluntarily, so we're escorting her. This is going to be interesting. 20 minutes later, the Coast Guard boat shepherded the Guardian back to the marina. A crowd had gathered. Neighbors who'd heard the commotion, other boat owners, and even a few HOA board members who looked deeply uncomfortable. Brenda climbed off my boat with as much dignity as she could muster, which wasn't much considering she was being escorted by 2 armed Coast Guard personnel. Her friends followed, suddenly silent and avoiding eye contact. "This is absurd," Brenda announced to the assembled crowd, her voice shrill. "I'm being treated like a criminal for utilizing community property for a sanctioned HOA board appreciation event. Ma'am," Petty Officer Jackson said with professional patience, "this is not community property. This is Petty Officer Klein's personal vessel, which you took without authorization." Brenda's eyes found me in the crowd, and her face flushed deep red. "You called the Coast Guard? On me? Do you have any idea who I am?" I stepped forward, still in my uniform from morning drills. "I know exactly who you are, Mrs. Carmichael. You're someone who just committed felony theft of a vessel valued at over $40,000. Felony?" When her friends gasped. "Brenda, you said this was arranged." "It was arranged," Brenda insisted, though her voice wavered. "The HOA has jurisdiction over all marina vessels." "I'd love to see that in writing," I said calmly, "because I've read our HOA bylaws cover. 3 times, in fact, after you try to ban military personnel from the marina. There's nothing that grants the HOA authority over privately owned vessels." Lieutenant Commander Harris arrived then, and I snapped to attention. He returned my salute before turning to Brenda with an expression that could freeze the Florida sun. "Mrs. Carmichael, I'm Lieutenant Commander Harris. I understand you took Petty Officer Klein's vessel without authorization. I need to inform you that theft of a vessel is a federal offense, falling under the jurisdiction of the Coast Guard and punishable by up to 10 years in federal prison." The color drained from Brenda's face. I didn't. This is a misunderstanding. You thought you could take someone else's $40,000 boat for a joyride." Harris's tone was ice. "Let me be crystal clear. This isn't an HOA matter. This is a federal maritime incident. You're looking at charges of unauthorized use of a vessel, possible charges of operating under the influence given that champagne bottle on the deck, and reckless endangerment." "There must be something we can work out," Brenda stammered, her imperious attitude crumbling. "I'm willing to apologize, to make restitution. That's between you, Petty Officer Klein, and the federal prosecutor who'll be reviewing this case," Harris said. He nodded to the Coast Guard personnel. "Document everything. I want photographs of that boat, statements from witnesses, and a full report on my desk by 1600 hours." As the Coast Guard began their investigation, several neighbors approached me. Tom from 3 houses down clapped me on the shoulder. About time someone stood up to her. Last month she tried to fine me for having my grandkids' bikes on my lawn. Sarah, who lived on the corner, added, "She told me my wind chimes were acoustic pollution." "I can't believe she actually stole your boat,"